The Asian Pacific Islander Domestic Violence Resource Project was founded to address the deficiency in resources for domestic and sexual assault survivors who are part of the API community. According to the nonprofit, Asian and Pacific Islanders face cultural and linguistic barriers as they try to seek help. Welcome to Impact Moment, brought to you by DCTV. I'm Rebecca Burnett, and today I'm joined by Executive Director Kritika Ghosh to learn how her organization is making a difference. Welcome.
Thank you, Rebecca. It's lovely to be here.
So many of your clients are low English proficient, relatively new immigrants, and your organization reports that they're less likely to seek services. Why is that?
I think that's because a lot of newcomers to this country are isolated. Because they're new to the country, but also intimate partner violence. One of the strategies and tactics is to isolate the survivor from getting support and from reaching out to community members or to friends and family. And also, many of them don't really know that there is help available, and specifically help in their language, because they might try to contact a mainstream service provider who may not know how to support them in a culturally specific manner. A predominantly large number of our clients are new immigrants who are seeking our support and who have not had the chance to actually learn English or go out and get a job or have other means of support, financial support for themselves.
And you mentioned speaking to them in a culturally specific manner. Can you give some examples of ways that might be helpful if someone on the other side of the phone knows exactly what they're going through or what they need at the time?
Sure. I mean, one thing to keep in mind is that even within the Asian Pacific Islander communities, our cultures are very diverse and fluid, but there are some things in commonality. So, for example, if we had somebody who wanted to go into a shelter space and somebody was, a Muslim, practicing Muslim person, and they needed to access space that respected their beliefs, so we would know that, that they would need access to a space where they needed halal food, for example. Or for many survivors, they speak about having access to a place where they can actually cook rice. Rice is a staple of our communities. We are always ensuring the confidentiality of our services, because coming from the same communities can be both a blessing and sometimes a challenge, because you might know people in common. So to ensure that services are provided in language, understanding the political and social and cultural backgrounds of the survivors calling in, but also ensuring that they're aware that all of the services and information we are providing is completely confidential and nothing will be shared with anybody outside of these two people.
And you reported that you saw an over 200% increase in calls since the beginning of the pandemic. What do you believe was the cause of that spike in calls, and how have you met the increase in demand?
So yes, I think one of the challenges once the pandemic came about was that survivors were stuck indoors with their perpetrators, especially at the very beginning where we didn't know what was happening. Everybody was told stay inside. So imagine being in an abusive situation with a perpetrator who was using that to their, to their advantage. So we did have survivors call us when they were out on their daily walks, getting food, or any time that they could, have to themselves. They were experiencing violence at home. They were experiencing racism and xenophobia on the streets. So one of the things that we did was also offer this healing spaces workshops, which included things like yoga, mindfulness, drawing, and art therapy, music. We had to come up with safety planning measures that recognize that this is who is really planning for a global pandemic, so we had to plan as we went. We provided support in terms of providing groceries and gift cards for groceries, as well as access to shelter and housing in circumstances that were very difficult. Many survivors lost their jobs during this time as did many of the public. So we supported survivors in job training, but also reaching out and getting stimulus checks. Many stimulus checks were also taken from survivors who are the perpetrators. That was one way of keeping them at home. It was like, we're taking this check so you can't leave, so that was a method of control. So we supported survivors in these methodology during the pandemic, and we continue to do so.
Great. And then if someone wants to get involved with your organization outside of the hotline, where can they find you? What is your website?
Our website is www.dvrp.org. We're on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, and our handle is at API-DVRP.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time, and thank you for all the great work that you're doing for the community. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
And thank you to our audience members at home for tuning in to this episode of Impact Moment. It's part of DCTV's nonprofit Capacity Building Grants program, bringing meaningful media to the DMV's nonprofits that are making a difference. Find out more at dctv.org/grants and stay up to date with our latest productions on our live stream at dctv.org/live.